Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our regular meeting of council for Monday, November 25th. If I could ask everyone to please stand for the national anthem. Sorry.
O Canada, our home and native land, through patriot love in all of us command, car ton bras s'est porté les pays, il s'est porté la croix, ton histoire est une épopée des plus brillants exploits. God keep our land glorious and free. Oh Canada, we stand on God's holy. Oh Canada, we stand on God's holy.
So good evening to members of council, staff, and the public. I will call the meeting to order. Are there any declaration of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof? Seeing none, motion to accept the agenda. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Massey, that the Council of the Township of North Glengarry accepts the agenda of the regular meeting of Council on Monday, November the 25th, 2024.
Okay, thank you. We did an addition of 60, which is the South Nation Conservation Municipal Tree Planting Partnership. It is on our agenda right now, but it is an addition. Any discussion? All those in favor? The motion is carried, none opposed. Okay, moving on to the adoption of the previous minutes. Councillor Massey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Move by myself, seconded by Councillor Manley. The minutes of the following meeting be adopted as circulated. Regular meeting of council minutes Monday, November 12th, 2024, and committee of the whole Wednesday, November 20th, 2024.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion or errors or omissions on the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion is carried, none opposed. Okay. Moving on to delegations. I'd like to welcome the Maxwell Manor Redevelopment Committee, Allison and Bernie, if you guys just... Welcome, Allison.
Thank you very much for having us today. Yeah, sorry, I don't have the forward. There we go. Thank you very much for having us here today. I'm Allison McDonald. I am a councillor in North Stormont. I'm also a representative on the Maxwell Manor Board of Directors, along with Gary Martin here, and formerly Jacques Massey, but he managed to slip away from us a month or so ago. But we are all members of the Maxwell Manor Board, and we also have Bernie McDonnell. Bernie's with the Building Committee, and probably has many other titles and accolades behind his name that I'm not quite familiar with. But today we're focused on presenting our Maxwell Manor redevelopment project. We know that you're in budget time and that these are times when you're considering how to spend dollars and that dollars are tight, but we're excited to tell you about what we're trying to do at the Manor and how important it is that we're seeking your help tonight. So I'm going to start it off and I'll turn it over to Bernie when we get to the specifics on the building. Do I advance this? Yeah, you can do that.
Okay.
Yeah, you're good.
Perfect.
Okay, so the Manor actually opened its doors in 1968, and fast forward to today, we now have 180 staff, 180 volunteers, and 122 residents. We're one of the area's largest employers. We offer long-term care, senior living apartments, as well as what I was surprised to learn when I joined the board, a number of community support services. So Meals on Wheels, transportation, caregiver support, healthcare, and tons of social and recreational programming for seniors and adults with special needs. Together, we are serving the community at over 500 people served every year on behalf of the Manor. looking at the area in which the manor serves, it's not just within Glengarry, it's not just within Maxville. We serve also into Ottawa, Prescott Russell, and all parts of SDNG. We prepared a little analysis recently in terms of the residents at the manor and the staff at the manor. As you can see, 64% of our residents are from SDNG, but we do have a number of residents coming from outside of the area as well. And we employ 76% of our staff from SDNG. Another thing we wanted to mention is that of all the long-term care homes in the Eastern Ontario region, we are one of 2 that are not-for-profit standalone. So you'll also be familiar with Dundas Manor. It's just Dundas Manor and Maxville Manor who operate in this way. So we're not for profit, we're not municipally supported, we are fully nonprofit standalone. And we know that 70% of people will end up choosing a not-for-profit home or municipal home. That just being maybe what's in their community, what they can afford, but most people will be looking for beds within the Maxville Manor, the Dundas Manor. And this is where I'd like to turn over to Bernie to talk about our history and where we're going with our renovation.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having us. So, as was mentioned, the manor was opened in 68. I'm not going to go through the bullets, but I would like to say that the manor is not owned by anybody other than the community. It was built as a community home. It was built by the community. And it's operated since 1968 without subsidies from the various levels of government. So everything it's done on its own. Currently, there's over 40,000 people in Ontario looking for space, and the manor has a constant list of 100 people at all times that are looking for it. So adding 38 beds is very important, and even though we do not control who comes in, it's the ministry that controls who comes in, the fact that there are more beds means there's more opportunity for people from this township to be able to have a spot at the manor. I got it. So that's the existing manor that you see up on the slide. And we put it there just to let you know, wings B, C, D, and E will be demolished through that process. They're the older part, low ceiling, flat roof. And basically when we started doing our analysis on the project, what we found out was that the mechanical and electrical systems in these sections were at end of life or would be at end of life by the time we were ready to open up the new areas. So they'll be demolished and taken out. The F and G wing and the center core will be renovated and will remain. The F and G wing was the piece that was added on in the 1990s. And if you look here, slight correction on the slide. It's where it says phase 1, we say 2024, 2025. We had originally planned starting this fall. We've deferred to spring for a number of reasons, but primarily to get rid of one winter of construction costs. We found a better way to schedule it. So if you look on the plan, it starts out with taking everything that's at the front of the manor in what's called phase 1 here and moving it to the back of the manor. So the manor is actually going to be shifted around from the street. Phase 2 that you see in 2025, 2026 will be a 2-story addition that'll house 2 floors for a total of 64 beds. Then we move people from the B and C wings into this new one, and that's when we start the demolition process. We demolish B and C, and we build phase 3. When we finish building phase 3, then we move the people from D and E into that wing, and then we renovate phase 4, hopefully completing in December of 2028 with a total of 160 all new beds, although 32 of them will be refurbished from the F and G wing. That's just a shot of some of the renderings. I will tell you that they've changed since that particular slide. It has come out, but if anything, it'll look newer and even better. And finally, so from a governance point of view, we have set up a building committee to oversee. The building committee reports to the board. Our designs are complete. We actually submitted on Saturday morning to the ministry all of the required drawings and operational plans. And this morning, we submitted to our contractors the 50% construction plans. Our plan is to tender the project mid-February and to have completed, mid-January, and to have completed the tender analysis and recommendation to the ministry for March 8th, with a final approval by the ministry for March 31st, and then a start of construction in probably mid-April to mid-May, depending on when you guys take half loads off the off the roads, because the first part will involve a lot of groundwork. The base provincial funding, so that the ministry has cooperated with us. We filled in all the forms. They've agreed to go, and I guess good news is our bank loans were approved on Friday as well.
So as Bernie was just mentioning, we have secured, as part of our financial strategy, long-term provincial construction subsidies, but unfortunately these subsidies do not cover our upfront construction costs. We were successful in securing $4 million from SDNG County, which really helps and got us started on our fundraising campaign. So now we're in the midst of an $11 million fundraising campaign within the community. We're at about $8.6 million to date, and happy to announce that North Stormont did support at $100,000, which that gift was spread over a couple of years. And so we're very grateful for that. We have also made a request into South Glengarry and made a presentation to them, and they're considering what they're able to give. So we're hoping to hear back from them soon. A lot of work going on in the community. Everything from, it feels like, bake sales to big ticket dollars. I mean, I bought $30 worth of muffin mix the other day. So we're all doing our part. There's trivia nights. We went to 100 Women Who Care in North Stormont. We were successful there in getting $10,000, and we were the winning charity that night. So really, there's a lot of people out there really trying to work and make sure that this gets off the ground, that we can start construction, that all this hard work will be recognized. And I guess what we really wanted to come here to let you know is that if we're not able to make this happen, you know, there's lots that we would lose. 120 long-term care beds, it's not something that we can lose in our community. We mentioned how many people are waiting on the list. People who can't get into long-term care will stay in the hospital. We lose jobs, we lose volunteer opportunities, but really we lose a huge part of our community. As Bernie said, this has been something that's been taken care of, guided, shepherded by this community for so many years. And this is the time where we need to come together and support it now and see what it will become in the future, which, judging by the plans and designs, is something absolutely unbelievable for all of us. So tonight we are asking for your support. There are different ways that the municipality could support the manor. As mentioned, the Township of North Stormont has made a commitment, dollar commitment, over a number of years and spread it out. We really do need commitments by December 31st, so that's what we're looking for. It doesn't have to be realized on that date, it just needs to be committed. And there are other options. There's a few suggestions up there: committing surpluses, building permit fees. You are our municipality, so there are lots of ways you can sort of donate in kind, if that's what you'd like to consider. But of course, it's just the ask today. We'll leave it with you, and we will be here to answer any questions, but we understand you'll need time to consider and think about this. And I hope you will consider it, because it's a really great cause.
Perfect. Thank you very much for your presentation, and as we all know, this is very important to our community. Are there any questions or comments from members of council? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just seems like a very well laid out plan, I've got to say. And Bernie, it looks like a great building plan, and the fact that you're spreading it out over so many years and trying not to move the residents as often as possible. I think it's a fantastic plan.
Thank you. They only move once.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
amazing. Any other questions or comments? Go ahead, Councilor Madden.
I'll just, excuse me, throw in that from personal experience, place is fantastic. The care is incredible. The people are wonderful. I won't go to the point of putting numbers on it, but I've got a couple of businesses that I'll make some donations through, and I'll personally put some money into it as well.
That's amazing.
And obviously, we'll have a discussion around the table that we'll figure out what we can do.
That's awesome.
But thank you guys very much for coming in to agree with Councillor Manley. It looks like a fantastic plan, and all the plans that I've seen look beautiful. So looking forward to seeing it.
That's awesome, and since I'm in charge of the Alexandria fundraising aspect of it as co-chair of the Maximum, I will sit with you later on today. Awesome. Yeah. I've already committed. And go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
So my question is for you, Mr. Mayor. When can we get the discussion on this important ask at the council table? Can
So
we
it
do
will-
that at our next meeting?
It will be on December 9th. We'll come back with the
That's fantastic.
council, our staff will do a report and recommendation, and we will have a discussion and a vote on it. And so, yeah, it'll be done before, it will be done for our last meeting of the year, so.
That's fantastic.
Great.
Yeah,
Thank you for a great presentation.
thank you.
Councillor Massey?
Do you really want to wait till December 9th? I was ready to throw a number out there.
Yeah. Free taxation for 40 years, you just throw stuff out there, so.
Sounds good.
Well, we
Okay,
really
any-
appreciate your support.
Great, thanks for
Thank
your
you.
presentation. Thank you, Bernie, appreciate it. Okay, moving on to staff reports, Administrative Department, AD 2024-09, EOWC Support Resolution. Councillor Madden.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Buckle up.
Sure.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Manley. Whereas Eastern Ontario's small rural municipalities face insurmountable challenges to fund both new, growth-related infrastructure and ongoing maintenance of their capital assets, including local roads and bridges, clean water, waste facilities, and municipally owned buildings, including recreational facilities and libraries. And whereas the Federation of Canadian Municipalities has calculated that municipal governments across Canada are responsible for approximately 60% of public infrastructure that supports our economy and quality of life, but only receive 10 cents of every tax dollar. And whereas the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus, EOWC, region's capital infrastructure deficit has increased by 58% since 2011 and is now at $6 billion and growing. And whereas in 2018, the Ontario government mandated all Ontario municipalities to develop a fully fund capital asset management plans by July 2025. And whereas the EOWC has released a regional municipal infrastructure policy paper showing key infrastructure data, opportunities and challenges in small rural municipalities across Eastern Ontario. And whereas Eastern Ontario is a growing economy that can grow more with sustainable, innovative infrastructure partnership and investment from the federal and Ontario governments. And whereas the infrastructure deficit for small rural municipalities cannot be adequately addressed through property tax revenue, restricted municipal borrowing capacity, and municipalities' limited ability to generate revenue. And whereas small rural taxpayers cannot afford dramatic increases to pay for the current and future infrastructure. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the municipality joins the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus, the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, and the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, in calling on the federal and Ontario governments to immediately and sustainably partner with municipal governments by investing in both the new and ongoing maintenance and repairs of municipal infrastructure in Eastern Ontario's small rural municipalities, and that the federal and Ontario governments immediately review data and work together to implement solutions based on the EOWC's municipal infrastructure policy paper in partnership with small rural municipalities. And finally, that this resolution be forwarded to the Honourable Justin Trudeau, Prime Minister of Canada, the Honourable Sean Fraser, Minister of Housing, Infrastructure and Communities of Canada, the Honourable Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario, the Honourable Kinga Surma, Ontario Minister of Infrastructure, the Honourable Paul Calandra, Ontario Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, the Honourable Lisa Thompson, Ontario Minister of Rural Affairs, the Honourable Peter Bethenfalny, Ontario Minister of Finance, the Honourable Prabmeet Sakaria, Ontario Minister of Transportation, the Honorable Victor Fedeli, Ontario Minister of Economic Development, Job Creation and Trade, local MP, local MPP, Federation of Canadian Municipalities, Association of Municipalities of Ontario, Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation, Rural Ontario Municipal Association, and the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus.
Well done, Councillor. Yeah. So, do you want to, it's pretty self-explanatory. Are there any questions or comments? I'll call the vote. All those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. There are none opposed. Moving on to Treasury Department, TR 2024-18 third quarter variance report. Councillor Manley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Madden. With the Council of the Township of North Glengarry receive staff report TR 2024-18 third quarter variance report for information purposes only.
Okay, thank you. Welcome, Zoe.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Staff have prepared the third quarter variance report as well as a variance report with the figures up to date as of November 21st. Utilities, mileage, insurance, wages, and benefits have all been noted for review during the 2025 process. Staff will be recalculating appropriate figures and providing them through that process. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Questions or comments? Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for your report, Zoe. You were reading my mind, I guess, when I emailed you asking for it for the Committee of the Whole, because I think it's important to kind of get an idea of where we're at going into budget discussions. And just looking through it, I'm not sure what the final numbers are in terms of revenue versus expenses, but just a comment, I guess, on, overall, when I was going through it, I was kind of making notes of not large sums that were like already over budget, not huge amounts of dollars, but just over enough to kind of, make me notice. And they seemed to be items that were things like conference and training, supplies, membership, general expense, which I call miscellaneous, which gets on my nerves because it's easy to create a column like that and then just take money out of it. Things like, office supplies again, and then more supplies, and then more conference and training. And so, these seem to me to be categories where if departments are getting to the point where they're at their budget, they need to stop spending on those line items. But, in no time, I had added up $40,000 in what looked like departments not respecting their respective budgets. So I'm just curious as how that is managed in the municipality.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, each director manages their own budget. I provide them updates when requested. We can get into a habit of sending them out more frequently to help with that. Oftentimes, I do know, and I have noticed in certain departments, that there are several budget items that are similar. So, as you mentioned, there's materials and supplies. Sometimes everything gets coded to one account, but there is a second account where things are then transferred to once we begin looking into the detail of each budget. That's very frequent with the Waterworks department because they have water and sewer. Oftentimes, they have a tendency to code everything to water, but some of that will be split out to sewer. Tim and I have discussed ways to mitigate that in the future. And otherwise, we do try to have staff pull back from spending once they are nearing the end of the year, especially for things like office supplies where we can wait till the next year.
Okay, good. Well, I guess maybe more reminders would be in order. I don't know. I mean, I saw a purchase of office chairs, which created an overage, and I'm like, well, if there's no money to buy office chairs, don't buy office chairs. It's
Through you,
like-
Mr. Mayor. That was actually from the first quarter report. I left the comment there just to explain what it was, but that purchase was made at the beginning of the year.
Ah, okay.
So at the time, I believe that they had gotten approval for the chairs, and then they since required other supplies.
I see. Okay. Thank you. Thanks for your part.
I think also too that we often see when the directors look at their global budget, that they, you know, they look and they go, okay, we're gonna be under here, so maybe we can do this, you know, take some money from here. Do we know what the bottom line figures are, like what our percentages are?
I don't have it, but I can calculate it and send it out to council after.
Okay, that'd be good to know. Just that, I think to me, that's the most important part. There are these smaller items, but I don't necessarily, you know, if the variance is 40,000, but the variance on the greens is higher than that. So, anyways, go ahead. I do agree, though. No. No, I do, and I'm not disagreeing, but that's to me how they do
Thank
it.
you,
Go
Mr.
ahead.
Mayor. I agree with Karma on this too, and we have that discussion, we had that discussion every year pretty much, so when we see these the budget is spent like in August or something, and there's 4 months to go or something. And I do understand that it's maybe when we were making the budget last year, just to try to keep costs low or something, but definitely, and I do understand that there might be less expenses in another account, but this account, but it shouldn't be done like that. It's, that account has been determined to be so much. If you spend half your budget over there and you can't really transfer, I don't think that's a good business way to do things. Even though we didn't spend half in tires or something, we can overspend on the other department, which is paper. So, like, we need to tidy this up and then, you know, or put the real numbers there, because, and then I know we try to keep the tax increase low, but at one point we have to face a reality, what's our real cost here, or maybe just tighten the belt a little bit more, because we seem to be spending a lot of money for just my opinion.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Manley.
Well, I think we have to be careful because council expenses are over, substantially over our budget. So I think we have to sort of decide what we're going to do there too as well. So,
Go ahead.
I just have one question, and I think I've asked it before, but these pill things right at the very top,
Payments in lieu?
Yes.
payments in lieu. There's one there, the second line is 18,000. Now, these payments in lieu, is that something we're supposed to be receiving from government?
So I believe the 18 and,
Is that an error, or is that, like, it looked like we paid 18?
no, that's actually correct. We spoke to the auditors about it. It was an invoice that had to be canceled. It was just recorded wrong.
Okay. all
So
right.
it does show up there.
Yeah, it just kind of confused me there.
No, so we do receive payment in lieu, and we have not received them to date, so we do have additional revenue coming in there.
Okay. No, I just saw that. It looked like we had paid 18,000 rather than received anything, so.
Go ahead.
yeah, just one more thing. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just looking on the, where is it here? I had it. The AMPS revenue. We talked about that before, that new program that's come in or whatever, and it looks like we've done quite well on that. So that's a very positive thing or whatever, that we're collecting money off that AMPS program or whatever, and that's where it gets charged to the, is that, oh, Jake's not here, but it's charged to the,
It's rather than going through the counties, right?
right,
Right, yes, through Service Ontario.
yeah, so, yeah, that's a good thing, good move.
Just want to comment on the interest on our bank account. We had projected 200 and we're currently at 357. What's why the huge variance, just getting more?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I was not the one who prepared the budget. I think we just left the numbers that were there from the previous treasurer. However, I am going to look into that and see it. I do have it flagged because it is a very large discrepancy. We'll see it's possible the number forecasted for 2024 was incorrect, which would be ideal. But if not, we'll ensure that it's correct and we've put the background together for 2025.
Okay, good. Go ahead, Councillor Goodell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Zoe, were there any items that were particularly alarming?
Through Mr. Mayor, nothing particularly alarming. As Deputy Mayor Williams mentioned, there are quite a few accounts that are over, and I think a lot of it is just looking at the budget more frequently, but nothing that was significantly without reason.
Yeah, you could see the cause for the discrepancy.
Or the director in question had an explanation for it, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Thanks. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick request. Next time you're presenting this to us, do you mind putting revenue, like a title for revenue and then a title for expense?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, I will update the format and I will start breaking it down by department as well. And I'll include the actual variance per department, outlining specifically the revenue and expenses for each department.
Excellent. Thanks very much.
Go ahead, Tim.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I need someone to mention that I'm 2,684% up on road permit fees. Thank you.
And what does that, sounds like a big number, and what does that work out to financially?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it's actually pretty good. We did, we're at $12,000 up on our permits. That's through, we put the Transnomus permit system in
Yeah.
that we talked about at Committee of the Whole, and there's $12,000.
Well, that's great.
Profit.
Go ahead.
Just to clarify, like a lot of that is the Rogers stuff? Yeah, okay, thank you.
Great. Further questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried, none opposed. Thank you, Zoe. Moving on to Public Works Department, PW 2024-33 EV Ontario Charger Grant. Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Massey, that the Council of the Township of North Glengarry receive staff report PW 2024-33 EV Charge Ontario Grant application, and that the Council of the Township of North Glengarry authorizes the Director of Public Works to enter in an agreement on behalf of the Township of North Glengarry with the Ministry of Transportation for funding to construct an EV charging station in Alexandria.
Okay, thank you. Tim.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So it was, I believe, in February that I first brought a report about this EV charger grant that was identified and brought to me as a good opportunity. So we put in 2 funding applications. Actually, we put in 3 funding applications. So with EV Charge Ontario, we put in for an EV charger in Maxville and an EV charger in Alexandria. These are the higher percentage grants, and in Maxville, we were unfortunately unsuccessful. In Alexandria, we did get a letter to receive the funding. We wanted $110,000, and we've got an offer for $90,000 from EV Charge Ontario, which is pretty good. According to the our partners at Flow, who is one of the companies who was essentially proposing that we use their EV charger if we were successful with the grant, which I would very much recommend. There was about 650 applications and only about 200 were accepted, and we are one of those, so that's pretty good for us. So the project is I really put both projects together to sort of essentially be the minimum cost for the municipality and still meet all the qualifications and do the really important thing, which is to put North Glengarry on the map, I'm going to say economically, as an EV charging destination. So it's literally, when you drive in these EVs, a lot of them have an actual app or something built into the car that shows where these fast charging stations are. So it means you can go to that community and spend your money in that community while you're waiting for your car to charge, and you're talking about a 15-minute charging time for a fully electric car with 400-kilometer range. So it's the type of charger we're going for is very significant. But I did go through, and there are a lot of eligible costs. So one of the big points I wanted to make is that our parking infrastructure hasn't really been looked at in a very long time. We did the first the first refurbishment of our parking infrastructure was done in Maxville this year, which I think was very successful with the new resurfacing and line painting, which everyone seems pretty happy with. We also did the entrance to the Maxville Recreation Center with the new sidewalk and everything, which everyone seems to be pretty happy with new disabled access parking spaces. So when it was coming up to budget time, I was projecting to put essentially what would be our contribution to the grant tried to make that the same amount of money as we would be putting into a parking lot anyway, because this infrastructure is due for renewal, whether we're doing the one downtown Alexandria or something in Glen Rumson or something in one of the Glengarry Sports Palace or something like that. So essentially the suggestion is here, and that we go and put that money, combine it with a grant, and then actually get a really good piece of infrastructure, not just a renewal, but an upgrade. So the signage, Jenna, do you have the map? My other attachment there, maybe? Maybe not? I think it is in the council package, but there's a PDF of some of the suggested changes there. So, you know, a crosswalk signage, the actual charger location, so we'd have new curb work, asphalt, line painting. So a lot of things that we would want to do even if we weren't putting an EV charger in there. The EV charger should also be able to make us money back on this project, and essentially cover our costs over time. It depends where you draw the line of what, you know, what does the EV charger actually need to cover? Does it need to cover its own installation plus some revenue, or is it covering the refurbishment of the entire municipal car park, which we probably would have been doing anyway? So yeah, I think it's a very good opportunity. The other thing to keep in mind was the top-up funding. So we did apply for top-up funding. We haven't heard back. And considering we were supposed to hear back about this grant in March, I'm not going to hold my breath that we're going to hear back about the top-up funding before we really need to make any decisions. But the thing with that top-up funding is that top-up funding, we're only eligible for it if we're doing both Alexandria and Maxville. So it is supposed to cover half of the cost. So essentially what we could do, or what I've put in the resolution is just concentrating on the grant that we got, but I could bring up another report in the future if we are going to progress with this, that would essentially keep the same commitment from North Glengarry, but give us the ability to do both Maxville and Alexandria, if that makes sense. Because the second grant, we didn't know at the time, but you had to do both projects to have enough charges to make yourself eligible. So I don't know if we're going to get that or not, considering how competitive it actually ended up being. I actually don't really know what our chances are going to be. But even standalone, I think this is a fairly good opportunity. And I'll also mention that we put in, we also put money in the budget there for firefighting equipment for it as well. So with the change to EV chargers, there's a big concern about the fires that can be caused, how hot they burn, and that you really, like the strategy at the moment is just to let these EV cars burn if they do catch a light. So it seems like the prevailing technology is to use EV blankets. So that's included in this grant to be able to, thank you, Jenna. That's included in this grant to be able to help fight those fires, whether that's a installation there that the fire department has access to, or fire blankets that are actually on the trucks as well. So that's pretty much it.
Okay, Councillor Goodall.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Do you know, Tim, where the nearest chargers are to Alexandria and Maxville?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. So there's one charger in Alexandria right now that is a slow charger. So that will take several hours to charge. So I think it's about 4 hours at the minimum for I think a Tesla Model 3, although I don't know if they're compatible. I think they need to carry.
Where is that,
adapters.
Tim?
At the
Case
the
Popular.
Case, yeah.
Sorry?
At the Case Popular behind.
Oh, okay.
But the nearest fast charging station, I believe, is in Castleman. And I think that Tesla proprietary.
That's the closest one to Maxville in Castleman.
I believe so. And then
Not
there's
at the Tim Hortons at the 417 or no.
and I think that there's significant infrastructure on the Quebec side, but even then, it's fairly far into Quebec. So we're in a good position for anybody who does have an EV charger coming along the 417, for sure, to stop and charge. I believe there's also some EV chargers in Cornwall. That's probably the next closest ones.
Go ahead, Councillor Massey.
Back when you brought it in, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Back when you brought this proposition in January or early spring, whatever, we had discussed about you bringing in also with your report the income stream versus, because us spending $90,000 just to accommodate a few people with, and I know it brings people into town, but
I don't think we're spending 90,000.
well, it's, yeah, they're paying, it's 180,000, I believe, this project.
Go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So the cost of the charger itself is $50,000. So that's
Okay.
that's the chunk of money that is towards the charger, and half of it. It depends where you draw the line of what the charger pays for. Because really, the way I see this is we need to refurbish our car parking infrastructure anyway. So if this grant wasn't there, we would have to go and spend $90,000. That's what I would budget to resurface, redo all the curb work, and perhaps improve.
Do we really need to redo the surface treatment in the car park?
It's terrible.
Okay, okay.
We
I'm
will.
not aware, so I know, yeah.
I would pick, if this EV charger grant wasn't there, I would pick another one. The GSP is needed more. There's other municipal park infrastructure which would probably go ahead. But since the money's there,
Okay, so
don't give up free money.
redo the whole thing. Still, that doesn't bring us to or do we receive any money? Do we have any money coming in from that EV charger, or, so that would nice to be, I'd like to see that too, in your report.
Yeah, I won't be able to.
No,
to-
but in the next report, maybe see, okay, well, we're estimating we're gonna get $500 a month revenues from this EV charger, and at least to be able to answer the taxpayer and saying, okay, it attracts people, yes, but at a big cost if we don't get any revenues to offset it. You know what I mean? I'd like to see the revenue side too.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So, absolutely, and I won't be able to have those specifics because we do need to pick what charger, and we do have an idea of the consumption. It's very easy based on, because we can. I believe in my last report I put the three different charging options that we can put on there, and we can simply do our operating costs plus what we pick in terms of revenue. So depending on how quickly we want to actually pay it off, and then what our margins are going to be is going to depend on use. So I'm actually would suggest that, we could put a projection in there. So maybe put a 8-year buyback period on the charger. So the $25,000, over the 8 years, and the useful life of them is 16 before they need major work. And I would actually suggest that once we start actually using it, we then tweak that based on what usage that we're getting. Because the less you use it, the longer it's going to last. The more you use it, the more money you're going to get. So it's a balancing act, right?
Just like a bank. I think when you go in for a bank and you need a business plan, so you need to estimate whatever you want, but just have a projection, okay, we're thinking that much usage.
It's just a
versus-
projection, Jacques. What he's saying is, every time you go and charge it, you're paying
Yeah.
paying that cost plus a percentage.
Yeah, I'd like to know the percentage and then the estimated usage of it. That's very simple to ask, I think.
It's actually pretty complicated because
Well,
there's-
no, if you say that the thing's gonna be charging 3 times 24 hours a month, take the revenue there, blah, blah, blah. It's not- I
Sure,
don't
but
think
where
that's
would
very
you get
complicated.
those projections from, right? Like, I don't have access to any.
You're just making numbers up.
Yeah.
we think we need an EV charger then, if we don't think it's gonna be used?
Oh, we don't, so that choice is up to you, right?
Yeah, I'm just asking because I know that there's people out there that will be wondering what are we doing?
Okay.
No, but we can have an EV charger every corner street too, but we need to explain the reasoning behind it. That's what
Well, there's EV cars out there.
I know there's EV cars out there, Jimmy, but do we have, do taxpayers substitute the guys that have a bigger car?
Well, they're not. They're gonna pay the cost
Well, that's
plus,
what I'd like to know.
but I know, but he's just gonna make, okay, I'm just gonna let it go. Go ahead.
We've never seen any revenue stream, that's what I'm asking.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On Jock's point, maybe we could research, like the Cornwall
Yeah.
EV chargers, the ones that, if we're going for the top of the line or whatever, we could, use Cornwall or Castleman as an example and find out from them how much that they're used, that kind of thing or whatever. That might be helpful to us.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I know the Castleman ones are heavily used. I go to Castleman fairly often. And I think, it is time that we start building this type of infrastructure. We don't want to find ourselves where everybody's got the infrastructure and we don't. But, I understand kind of the word of caution, sort of careful about jumping on the bandwagon if it's going to cost you a whole whack of money and you don't really know necessarily what benefits it's going to bring you. So, but I do think, we need to be paying attention to this. And so, I'm generally speaking in favor of it, but I've got some questions about what this is really going to cost us, because I don't quite understand, is it a 90,000, hard 90,000 that it's going to cost us? And no more than that?
Can you,
And-
can you
and-
take out the parking lot? Because I think you're confusing everybody by putting the parking lot in there. So what is the cost of installing the EV charger and turning it on?
Through Mr. Mayor, so what would make it very simple is the cost of the EV charger is, like, the actual installation, the structure is $50,000. So we receive through this grant $90,000. So we're essentially profiting $40,000 straight off. So even if, without that EV charger and the grant cancel each other out, and we have another $40,000 to spend on, but that $40,000 has to be spent on, resurfacing the car park.
Resurfacing the car park.
Improving it. We also have to show that we're putting $90,000 into the project, right? But essentially the EV charger is free, and we have an extra $40,000 to spend on
Okay, so
infrastructure surrounding it.
Look, just 1 second, please. We're going to defer, come back with the actual budget, everything in line for our December 9th meeting with what we're going to do in the parking lot, what that's going to cost, and that way everybody has that number. It just seems a little all over the place right now, so.
Unfortunately, we got this letter on Monday, and we need to send a letter back by November 29th.
Go ahead.
So, it's obviously, yes, feeling like pressure. So my take on this is the parking lot needs to be redone. So let's just put this charger aside for a second. We're gonna talk about the parking lot. Parking lot needs to be redone. It would cost us $90,000 to do the lot, which is what the ask is right now. So that $90,000 that we would spend on a parking lot to get a new refurbished parking lot is now going to include 3 chargers and a spot on a map for a fast charging station. So the same money we would spend to do the parking lot, we're gonna get the bonus of the chargers. And that's redone, reconfigured, beautified. I mean, we can talk about the chip stand later.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councilor.
Yeah.
Perhaps I won't. But it all goes toward, I mean, we're talking about a crosswalk in here, we're talking about, you know, partially including that. The path obviously isn't in there, but that all leads to the plan that we had earlier for the park, connecting everything. So this is all sort of moving towards that. So again, 90,000 that it would take us to do the parking lot, we get that parking lot, we get the chargers. So the chargers are kind of a bonus, as you said, kind of free.
So
We're not gonna say that out loud,
So-
it's a bit of a,
90, let's just say that your budget right now is $90,000. You'll need to come back to us with how everything else is going to be spent. But we know we're getting $90,000 in, right? That's your budget. Then we can talk about the rest of it. You're looking confused.
I'm a little bit confused. So, do we want to apply for do we want to accept the grant?
so the 90,000 is our share, that's our 50%, right? So while you say, yes, it's 90,000 your budget, the reality is it's $180,000
That's right, I'm
budget.
saying that we're accepting the 90,000.
Okay, so the budget is 180, but out of our pocket is 90.
Is 90, which is what it costs to do the parquet.
So when Tim does the budget to show us how this is all gonna be
Right.
spent, the bottom line is 180.
Right.
Okay,
And I can bring back a full budget with how exactly every line item will be spent. Yes, please. And I can do a projection of EV charges as well. I apologize, we hadn't heard anything since February, so we thought we weren't even getting this. And it's a lot of staff work and research to go and try and figure out this stuff, and we were a little surprised to get, you can have the grant, but you need to tell us by, a
Yeah,
week
yeah.
and a half.
if I,
Are you serious? A week and a half? That's not reasonable.
They can
Just
do
a
whatever they
question.
want.
If this turns out to be a gold mine, and we get 2 chargers, are we gonna have to, and we wanna add some additional chargers, would we have enough power to just keep hooking and making a stream?
Through Ms. Mayor, not in this location.
So, okay, so we'd have to,
Go ahead, Councillor Cadell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Were you, in the beginning, talking about including Maxville?
We're not.
Well, where's that all work out? We got-
There is no, we didn't get the money for
Whole other
Maxwell.
project?
We didn't get the money for Maxwell.
Okay, and we're not trying to stretch this money to do two?
No.
Okay.
Go ahead, Councillor Madden.
thing on the projections, Tim, I know that's gonna be a really difficult thing to project, and from my perspective, I'd say maybe just do 3 scenarios of, you know, absolutely terrible, absolutely fantastic, and somewhere in the middle as an average of, you know, if this is what we get as far as business, and if this is what we set the rate at. Because that's the other piece of this conversation, is that we set the rate on these machines, right? So it's our choice what we make off of each charge.
Go ahead, Councillor Manley.
Yeah, just, I'm looking at the location, Tim, that you've got for the chargers or whatever. I know, I go into that lot a lot or whatever, those spots are generally full at that point. I'm wondering about maybe moving it against the wall here? Would that work?
I thought the same thing.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, so this is the sort of project where we bring in a designer
Okay.
to look at everything.
I know what's gonna happen. It's gonna be 2 trucks parked in slots 3 and 6 going this way. And
Yeah.
somebody's not gonna see them, they're gonna turn in there and they're gonna hit the charger.
They will have bollards to protect against the
Yeah.
impacts. One of the reasons why the center is picked is because you can have, you know,
Both
you can,
sides.
both sides can
Right.
both benefit from the same charger. But this is just scope of work, so there'll be a
Okay.
designer who looks at the entire layout of the
Right.
parking lot and actually gives us a
Well, I
proper
suppose
design.
we could redesign that. We could redesign that parking lot, actually, to make it more efficient, probably.
And that's essentially why I put every single cost that there could be in there, because the benefit of this is much more than a charger. The charger is an excuse to get the money from the government, essentially.
Okay, further questions or comments? I'll call the vote. All those in favor of the motion? There are none opposed. Motion is carried. Okay, moving on to Community Services Department, CS 2024-35, South Nation Conservation Municipal Tree Planting Partnership. Councillor Manley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Round two, Mike. Move by myself, seconded by Councillor Madden, that the Council of the Township of North Glengarry receive staff report CS 2024-35, South Nation Conservation Municipal Tree Planting Partnership. And whereas the Township of North Glengarry has an interest in increasing urban tree canopy within the municipality. And whereas South Nation River Conservation Authority is applying for a funding opportunity from the Federation of Canadian Municipalities Growing Canada's Community Canopies Initiative for improving tree canopies in Eastern Ontario, a municipal tree planting partnership, and that the Council of the Township of North Glengarry will recognize that the lifetime contribution from the Growing Canada Community Canopies Initiative will not exceed $10 million for tree planting within our municipality, exclusive of a maximum contribution of $1 million for infrastructure activity costs. And if that approved, this project will be counted towards that limit. And that the Council of the Township of North Glengarry approves partnering with South Nation Conservation Authority on a funding submission to Growing Canada's Canopies, and if approved, will contribute $5,000 towards this initiative.
Okay. Welcome, Stephanie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So earlier this fall, staff was contacted from the South Nation Conservation Authority regarding an opportunity to partner for the Municipal Tree Planting Partnership. So this is a partnership that is fully managed and administered by the South Nation Conservation Authority in partnership with 12 other municipalities. So ultimately what would happen is the South Nation Conservation Authority would apply for the Growing Canada's Community Canopies Funding Initiative with a goal to create vibrant community canopies, thus fighting climate change, providing shade, thereby reducing temperatures, mitigating flooding, increasing biodiversity, and supporting human health and well-being. So ultimately, there are no current financial implications to Council, as Council has generally approved $5,000 in the annual budget exercise towards a tree program. But ultimately, should Council continue to dedicate these funds to the township's tree planting efforts through the partnership with the South Nation Conservation Authority, and thus through the grant funding opportunity, the Township of North Glengarry will have a unique opportunity to actually double the available funds towards this initiative. So ultimately having $10,000 annually as opposed to the $5,000 as it's currently allocated towards the tree planting efforts. So subject to Council's approval to proceed with the partnership, staff would be looking to discuss the opportunity with the Community Development Committee to garner more feedback about the actual deployment and allocation of the trees subject to approval.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Manley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think this is a great initiative. I'm just wondering, we're in a unique situation because like 2/3 of our municipalities in Raisin Region, and 1/3 of, or less than a quarter of it is in South Nation. So I'm just wondering if.
It goes everywhere.
It would go everywhere. It
Yeah.
wouldn't just be the area that belongs in
No.
South Nation. Okay. Okay.
They oftentimes work together, and one does does that, and somebody, Raisin Region will do something else. So
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
It could go anywhere.
Just
I
clarifying.
think. Yeah, go ahead.
Thanks, Ainsley. We do already, like this year, we had a partnership with the Raisin so that would be on top of that. I don't care really where it comes from as long as we plant trees, and that's basically all that would be. Community Development Committee, not too sure that's the right place to go, but send that to the Rural Ag one, or?
I don't think it's.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So certainly we can discuss it at both
Okay, yeah.
both committees.
Yeah.
Ainsley had sort of been contacted by South Nation and through
Okay.
Stephanie, so
Okay.
it was through the CDC that Ainsley thought, but we can certainly speak to both.
Yeah.
We had spoken about the possibility of maybe partnering with some businesses as well and do some planting around some of the industrial properties or commercial properties, maybe as part of this initiative. So
Yeah.
that was where the CDC sort of came in with the
Okay.
conversations with Ainsley.
Yeah, that's
But
perfect.
certainly we can bring that to the rural committee. It's also a great place for that to be discussed as well. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Did I hear that this is urban-focused planting? Did I hear that in this? Yes? Urban canopy, okay, well, that's good, because we need to encourage urban planting, for
Yeah, and
sure.
that's where we were thinking about doing some partnerships with maybe some of our bigger clients within the township
Yeah.
and seeing, you know, not just in Alexandria, maybe some like Maxville, like McEwen or places like that. So that's, I think, where the CDC came in through Ainsley and Stephanie to sort of reach out to some of the businesses. So I
Excellent.
think there's a pretty good probability this will be successful, so.
Yeah, very good, thank you. Thanks.
Okay, great. Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, thanks for your report. All those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried, none opposed. Okay, we have items under the consent agenda. Councillor Cadell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll get there. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Madden, that the Council of the Township of North Glengarry receives the items from the consent agenda for information purposes only.
Okay, thank you. Is there any questions on anything in the consent agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried, none opposed. Under new business, Deputy Mayor Williams asked us to pull this out of the consent agenda, so I will ask the Deputy Mayor to read the motion, which is a nice motion.
Yeah, so I guess you gotta be careful what you ask for. So let's make this 3 of 3 tonight. Moved by myself, seconded by Mayor McDonald, sorry. Whereas the assessment cycle is an essential process for maintaining the fairness and predictability of property taxes in our province, and whereas the pause of the assessment cycle has created uncertainty and instability in property taxation, impacting both residential and commercial property owners, and whereas the government has delayed an assessment update again in 2024, resulting in Ontario's municipalities continuing to calculate property taxes using 2016 property values, and whereas both current and outdated assessments are inaccurate, increase volatility, and are not transparent, and whereas frequent and accurate reassessments are necessary to stabilize property taxes and provide predictability for property owners, residents, and businesses alike. And whereas the staff of the Municipal Property Assessment Corporation would benefit from further skills enhancement and training in assessments, recognizing the importance of ensuring accurate evaluations for 100% of our municipality. And whereas the government has announced a review of the property assessment and taxation system with a focus on fairness, equity, and economic competitiveness, and therefore further deferring new property assessment. And now, therefore, it be resolved that the Council of the Township of North Glengarry hereby calls upon the Premier to promptly resume the assessment cycle to ensure the stability and predictability of property taxes while the government conducts its review on the property assessment and taxation system, or respond with an alternative method for every municipality in Ontario to achieve fair taxation. And furthermore, that municipalities in Ontario and their constituents are encouraged to apply pressure to the Premier daily, weekly, and monthly to resolve the situation before it causes undue stress to everyone in the municipality. And finally, resolved that a copy of the resolution be forwarded to the Premier, Doug Ford, the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, the Rural Ontario Municipalities Association, the Federation of Northern Ontario Municipalities, the Municipal Property Assessment Corporation, and all municipalities in Ontario for their consideration to make proper changes as quickly and efficiently as possible.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Any questions or comments? All those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Okay, notice of motion, our next regular meeting is Monday, December 9th, 2024, 6 PM here in council chambers. Question period? Nothing? Like nothing at all? Yeah, okay. Okay, so we will be going into closed session, so we'll take a 5-minute break. Just thank everyone for coming out to the meeting this evening, and just a reminder that Friday night is the tree lighting in the Mill Square, and Sunday night is the parade, the Christmas parade here in Alexandria, and Thursday night is, oh, Baby Come Home. Yes. Yes.
Sorry, I told you at first, I thought I heard Baby Come Home was changing dates.
Oh, I haven't heard that.
Okay.
Be a little late on that.
I haven't heard anything.
Have you heard an alternative date?
No,
Well,
just heard that it wasn't happening on that date.
Well,
The tree's still.
it's probably your fault.
We'll find out.
We'll find out. Okay, thank you, everyone, and I will ask Councillor Manley to read the resolution to go in closed session, and then we'll take a 5-minute break.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself, seconded by Deputy Mayor Williams, that we proceed in closed session as this matter deals with litigation and potential litigation, including matters of administrative tribunals affecting a municipality or local board as they may be discussed in closed session under Section 239 2E of the Ontario Municipal Act.
Thank you. All those in favor? Motion is carried, none opposed. So we will take a 5-minute break. Thank you.